Okay, um, I think we can start. So, hello everyone. Good day. So, thanks for joining us on this Saturday. Like, we appreciate your interest, to learn something new. So, keep up your interest. And before starting, like, I'll give a small introduction about our community. So we have a community called ng-Keralam where we do events every month last Saturday. Mostly we do, like 2 hours, like 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. IST. We'll have two sessions and 1 hour each session, and we'll do such sessions. And also we had a conference on January. Like we also do conference per year. And if you want to, stay up to date with our meetup group, like you can join our meetup site, which is called as meetup.com/talkcafe community. Like I'll show you at the end of the event, and you can just go and join there. So today we have two amazing speakers. First one's Avinash. So he'll be talking about static hosting of Angular build using AWS Amplify. So to give a small introduction about Avinash, like he has 10 plus years of experience as a full stack developer, and also having experience of more than 4 years of experience in e-commerce and finance in each domain. And he's a strong follower of open source technology, and he has used PHP, Python, AWS, and Angular as a technology stack to build various products. So we're happy to have you, Avinash. And next up, we have William. William, he's a front-end developer working primarily in the web and hybrid mobile space using technologies such as Angular, Native Script, and Ionic. And he'll be talking about Animate your Angular application. So both the sessions, I think it will be very useful for you. And thanks to William and Avinash, like for being a part of this event. And first, we have Avinash. So over to you, Avinash.
Thanks, Suhas, for giving my brief introduction. Hello, developers. Yeah, today we'll directly start jump onto the conversation because Suhas has already introduced me. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the static hosting of Angular build using the AWS Amplify, right? If everyone know about like how to build Angular build by using the ng-build command, okay? And why the static hosting? Because like Angular, when you generate a build, it's always be a HTML, CSS, and JavaScript only, okay? And AWS gives a very good options. Like in my previous session, I have explained about the AWS SC hosting also. Now I'm going to explain about the AWS Amplify, where it's very quick way to deploy the Angular app, okay, over the AWS Amplify. So we'll just walk through on how, what are things are there, okay. So today's agenda will be the like just to know about like what is the AWS Amplify, okay, how AWS Amplify provide a static web hosting services and how it work, okay, and what are the steps will be there, and you can have a question like session, okay, where you can ask the question if you have any doubt around what about sessions and in demo about it. Okay, so let's start. So what is the AWS Amplify? Okay, so like for all the newbies, like I'll just explain it that one. It's an open source framework. Okay, why it called open source? Because it's no they even AWS doesn't charge anything for AWS Amplify hosting. Only I think we have to pay for a small penny for the Route 53 entry. Okay, so Route 53 is a AWS networking tool where you have to manage your domain. Okay, like map the domain and map the AWS Amplify endpoint. Okay, it has a very beautiful admin UI where just a clicks and done. Like they have a very good interactions also. You will get to know in a demo. They have a console also. AWS CLIs provider. You can deploy the Angular app using the AWS Amplify CLIs also. This provides static web hosting. Okay, what is the static web hosting? Like static hosting, like it doesn't require any server. Okay, it required any just storage and the kind of domain. Okay, and domain has to map it That is called a static web hosting, because no need to worry about the server, like whether it's Apache, whether it's Nginx, or there is a Node server like that. Okay, it's purely a static web hosting. Actually, AWS Amplify provide various things, like it provide the backend app deployment also. But now we are going to focus only on the static web hosting feature which AWS Amplified provided. So why generally AWS Amplify will use it? It's like to accelerate the development of the mobile and web application on AWS, because I think you don't need to do any multiple steps to deploy it. Like if you know which domain you have to map it, and you know the which repository you have to use it for building, right? Then you are done. Even no need to create the build also. So generally, what we do in our local machine, we run the ng build command while passing the environment also, and then we're copying that build, whatever builds dist folder is, right, to the over the particular server or any other static hosting provider, right? Here, that we don't need to do anything about it. It's very simplistic way. You have to just have a repository and the AWS Amplify console. That's it. So how it provides, right? So there is I'll just explain you the point by point. It provides a complete workflow for building, deploying, and hosting a single page app. It's called as in our language, it's called as the SPA. Okay, so SPA, or like it's not even like binding towards the Angular hosting, it's binding towards any other thing. You can host our static website, React, Next.js, any other JavaScript framework application. But it provides from the building to the deploying to the hosting, all the end-to-end solution. It allowed developer to deploy and update to their web app every code commit. So you can give options there. You can choose a branch, okay, which branch you have to be deployed whenever. So you can use this for the continuous deployment also. Okay, if you want to do continuous deployment, right, every commit to the particular branch. Like if you have a release branch, which always be on top of the production server, right? Then that you can push it. So whenever you push any commit to the particular branch, it's automatically deployed, because they have kept a listener to that. Whenever there is something is happening in the GitHub repository particular bank, it will listen it will run in the database and do that within some seconds. Okay, that's the amazing job AWS Amplify do. And when build succeed, right, the app deployed and hosted on particular domain name, like amplify app dot something subdomain. Okay, so based on application's name or whatever repository name is, right, that will give you some random value. And that value you can map it to using your custom domain. If you want to have a use like abc.example.com, something like that, okay, you can use it. And developer can connect their custom domain to start addressing the production topic. That's how I explained, right? So no need to use our random generated amplifier domain. You can use your custom domains also. And it's not only a restrict to the GitHub. It can allow you from the GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, AWS code commit, and also you can deploy the folders also. So it's all the way of the services is provided. Okay, so no need to worry about like if you don't have a GitHub access, you can't do it. No, you can do it. You have a multiple other options, right? Bitbucket, GitLab, AWS code commit, and you can also do the GIF file also. So that's about AWS Amplify, how it would provide and what is exactly provided. Is it okay? So let's see the steps. It's authenticate Git tools. Okay, what is that? And then it's authenticate Git tools. Then it will show the list of the repository in as per your authentication. So what is generally when you log into the Amplify and select the whether you select GitHub or Bitbucket, right, based on the it will ask for your login. So you have to just it's like a third party authentication or authentication. It will access that app, and then it will show the list of the repository from your account. You have to choose which repository you have to use it and which brand you have to use it. By default, it will show the main branch. Then you have to just configure the build setting. If you want to change any build setting in that, suppose you have using a monorepo Angular application, right? And your dish folder is not exactly the actual one. You have to change it, right? Then you can change the build configuration in that there, and you can update it accordingly your repository. Then review settings and then deployed. That's it. See how only the 4 steps only, right? They like authentication of Git tool, like choosing the repository, configure settings, and done. That's how easy the amplified hosting is, right? You will get to know in a demo also, like how I quickly finished even within some time the amplification. And you can just track the status there. It is as a 4 stage, like provision, build, deploy, and verified. And then completion and getting a link for the applications. Then you can last option will be the map custom domain to auto-generated amplified in the Route 53. Okay, I think if you don't know the Route 53, again I'm just adding it like Route 53 is a tool which provided by the AWS for the domain management. Okay, so this is a way to simplify the diagram, like it's able to amplify, connect your repository, whatever I explain in a word, right? It has a graphical representation by that. Connect repository, configure build setting, and deploy your app. So that is one. Now we'll just go to the demo. Okay, I'll just see. I have already opened one of the Angular repository, and it's nothing like that. You have to use this of Angular version only. Okay, you can use any of the Angular version because it's not about like it's about the any applications you can use it. So I have a repository called My Portal Angular. So we are going to deploy this app. Okay, so let's go to the AWS. So I have a AWS account. So for to use this, you have to use your AWS account. Okay, if you don't have a AWS account, you can go to the AWS console, create account with your credit card, debit card, and you can have a free tier also. Even if you don't have free tier also, you can still obtain it because AWS Amplify doesn't charge anything for the your application, your hosting. Only they charge for your domain management, and that is also like one domain. It's around 0.075 around. It cost is around INR 91 rupees. It's okay. So you can go and register for the AWS. Okay. So I already have an account. So I'll just go to the Amplify. I'll just search for Amplify service. Okay. There is an existing app store available, similar kind of repository. So here you can have option called host web app and create backend. So now we are going to see only the host web app. Okay, create backend is like a backend app. Also, you can deploy. I mentioned in the second slide, right? So now we are going to focus on static web hosting. So let's click on the host. So here they will show the options like GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, and deploy without Git provider also. When you click a deploy, they will have a different options for this one. Okay, so I'll choose the GitHub here because I'm taking the GitHub the examples. I'll just click on the continue. Now it will ask me to log in to my GitHub account. Okay, so let me log in. Asking signing to GitHub to continue AWS Amplify. Okay, so you give your authorization. Once it's authorized, it will redirect to the amplified domain. Okay. Now see, GitHub authorization successful. The first step is completed. Now you can see the list of the repositories. You can see the my all list of public repositories available there. Private repositories, all these are there. Okay, so what we are going to use it is my Angular, my portal Angular. Okay, this repository we are going to use it. So it has, so it will show the branch, how many branches are there, all the random branch or dependent on. Just select the master. Okay, it's the old branch. That's why it's not. It's a main branch. It's a old way of that. Here is options called a connecting a monorepo. If you have a monorepo, like one folder belongs to the multiple Angular app, right? Still you can do it. Only thing is like to check the things, and they will ask you for the root directory of the app, which app you're going to use it. So inside the SRC, right? If you have a different app like ABC or XYZ, you have to mention the specific directory of the particular app, and that can be deployed here. Okay, we are not going to do here mono repos. I'll untick it here. Next. So now automatically pick the repository name as an app name. It will show the build and test settings. You have to just reverse one, like whether it's the same thing are there. Okay, node module, and it will run command is npm run build. If you want to change this, like for the specific to the production environment by that, you can do it. Okay, based on the environment, because when we have running a production environment, we change the flags there. But when we are running on development, we change the flag differently. So that you can change it here by clicking on the edit options here and just change. Okay, so here we are not going to change anything. We'll keep it like that. Advanced settings, they have the option called build image. Okay, you can use any, if you have any Docker image available. Okay, that you can also use it here, and you can pass out some of the environment specific variable if you want to use it, such as if you're in third party APIs keys, you are going to use it, or third party API domain, that you can pass it, and automatically that will be available in Angular as the environment variable. If you know the how, when you're running the Angular app in our local machine, right, you set the environment variable that is in a capitals letters and underscore if you have something, right? The same environment variable here also you can use it. Okay, that you have to just set the environment variable key and their value respectively. Okay, so here we don't have a very simplified thing, so we will not go for advanced setting here. So let's go to next. Now review, everything is correct. Application root, GitHub, same repository, branch is master, app name. It will automatically detect which framework, because we have that config.json and package.json, right? Based on that, they will detect which framework is. If you have the React, Next.js, etc., it automatically picks this one. The building setting and auto-detected setting will be used. We have not set any environment variable, it's none. Now save and deploy. You will be see now like how it quickly it does this job. Creating app success. App is created. Now, as I mentioned in the slide, right, it has a 4-step: provision, build, deployed, verified. It automatically go one by one to see this one. Okay, so now it provision completed. It's build stage. It's very real time. No need to refresh the page. Also, you have to keep watching it. Once it's done, it will go. Now it's running the ng-build command here. If you try to see here, nothing will show. If it's not completed, yeah, nothing will show. It's just saying that nothing completed. So we'll just wait for the build command. You can see the history here, so how they are doing it. Okay, build is successful. They have created a build. The front end, you can see here the all they are running, the histories, how they are running, and build completed. Now it is go to the deployment. So you can see the deployment log here, beginning deployment one. It is creating the CloudFront random values. Okay, deployment complete. Now it verified. I think it's completed. Now it assigned to the random value. Now we just open it. You can see this random value is available here. Okay, and master is our branch based on that. So if you have multiple environment, also you can based on the your development, your staging, production, you can have a different like build. Here is options for connect when you go here, right? Provision here. There's an option called here. Yeah, connect branch. You can connect the other branch, and you can have a different environment specific also. So this is our application. You can see like application is loaded. I have some random account available created here. something like sample application I have created just to show. Okay, so that's about this demo. Okay, you can see how quickly we have done the Angular app, and you can now compare it, right, with the other hosting provider, how the other application tedious process is there, and how the AWS Amplify process is simplify way. And there is a 4-click of that. Select the choose GitHub authentication, select your repository, finalize your build configuration, and you're done. And with the 4 step like provision, build, deploy, and verify, you're done with your application. How quickly they are done with now. Now we will just see how we can map it to the custom domain. So I'll just go to the Route 53. So I have my domains available, so I can keep using that as a demo purposes. So I'll use that one only. Hosted zone. I'll go to the hosted zone, DNS management. I'll choose the domain. So inside the domain, we'll create one subdomain. So this is about Route 53 domain management system. You can see there are multiple applications like created. Just create a record for subdomain, simple routing. Next, define simple. Just give a ng, you know, I'll just select here a records only because we're going to use the record. And now I have to see the amplified endpoint. Is the amplified endpoint is there? Recording, okay, I think what you have to do it here. There is option called we are setting domain management. Okay, yeah. I think here you have to do the domain. I forgot the step. Add domain automatically go there. So we can add Avinash Dalvi domain. Okay. Configure domain. Okay, so here we have to use. Okay, so I have to use ng-Keralam. They are not saying this only. So exclude root and use here ng-Keralam domain. Only save. Now it will go for SSL creation because I already have a dot star.avinashdalvi.com certificate, so it will go for it and take it from that account. Okay, so even that is another amazing thing Amazon has, right? If you are using a ACM is like Amazon certificate provider, right? That if you go using for Amazon and using in Amazon services, right, it's a free of cost. So yeah, you can see that how Amazon gives a very good hosting service for any of the application without just paying a small amount of that. So now it's going to the SSL configuration. Once it's done, it will be available for us. You can see here, I think you can see here in domain, if I'm not wrong. Yes, you can see here that this is automatically created by this. Map it to the that. see if there is available. Sometime it might take time, sometime it automatically immediately, because it's the only same account, right? AWS. Sometime it go very easily also. Try to refresh and see if the status has changed or not. Still on same status. Any logs available? Let's just take it if any step I have missed. Because last time also I got this kind of error.
You you can click that hide button, Avinash, at the bottom.
Yeah, it's done. I think it's now going for a domain activation. My screen is visible.
Yeah, yes, Avinash.
We just wait for a domain activation. It will be complete in some time. Still, activation is happening. So if the developer, if you have any question related to the domain demos, and even today's information, feel free to ask the question in the chat. Okay, so I'll be happy to answer on it.
Okay, so there's a question, Avinash. Like, shall we pick it up or shall we pick
Yeah,
it up
ping
at
it up.
last?
Yeah, ping it up.
Okay, so
I'll
there's
just
a
see it.
question from Mani Chandu. Can we deploy Nest.js application into AWS Amplify?
Yes, we can do it. We can do it.
Okay,
Yep. Because
I think that was
it's
the
a
only.
generalized, yeah, it's a generalized one. It's AWS Amplify provide a static web hosting. So wherever there is a JS framework or even simple HTML website is right, all can be deployed, because which is the application or framework which doesn't require any server configuration, that can be done using the AWS Amplify.
Okay,
I hope
okay.
that's a good way. Just see the refresh and
Yeah,
see there is nothing.
thanks, Avinash. I think that was the only question.
Yes, it's done. It is not updated yet. But you can see here the ng-Keralam demo avinash.dalvi.com is available. The same portal which we had access through the random URL. Here we are. Now we are completed with our demo part. I'll stop sharing it.
Okay, so that's all about your session, Avinash.
Yeah, it was very quick
Okay.
one. Even
Yeah.
for a developer, even for a developer also it's very quick one. That's why I'll suggest all developer who are using any application go for it Amplify, because it doesn't cost like more. Also it's very nominal fees for domain configuration, and it's like a quick way of the deployment. That's it. No need to worry about ng will come and wait for it and all these things.
Mhm. Okay. So basically, I have a question. Like, I'm not sure whether you have tried it out in GitHub. We have an option called hosting, right? Like, we can host the static pages in GitHub.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I think, like, do you see any advantages between these two things, like doing it in GitHub versus
Yeah,
AWS?
advantage is like I think if you have a free account in GitHub for everything, right? I think your per
Mhm.
account one only you can use it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And here
yeah.
there is no limit, right? You can have multiple one. If you have multiple application, if you have multiple
Mhm.
environment, you can go for it. Even if in single repository, if you have a multiple branches, you want to have a different branches, and you can try for any features also, right? That also depends. You can create a feature build in Amplifier and show it a particular features on particular that domain. No need to even touch your existing domain or existing any test environment. So this is actually kind of helpful for all kind of deployment management and developer tools. Okay, when we have working with a larger organization, or where we are working with the environment specific things, that's the help over the benefit over the GitHub static hosting. Even I can tell you, AWS S3 also provide this static hosting, right? But
Mhm.
this is more faster than the S3 one. Like S3 has little bit some cumbersome process, because you have to do some manual things, by
Okay.
creation of S3 bucket, creation of CloudFront, mapping, all these things.
Okay.
That's one. But this is no need to do anything now.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Okay. I think that was a very quick session. So thanks, thanks for that, Avinash. And maybe you
Yeah,
can
thank
share some, like if you have any blogs or YouTubes for this
yes,
reference.
yes. Yeah, I have. I'll share with you a chat window, a
Yeah.
slide. In a slide, I have mentioned
Mhm.
all the references, because I have written a blog for it on the also, and I have written amplified more details about amplified. Even amplify specifically provide Angular things also. Like whatever we did, it's very like simple things only. But beyond
Mhm.
that, advanced thing also amplify provide, because amplify giving the adaptation towards the Angular application. Okay, so they have their own beautiful blog they written for specific to the Angular build only. So you can refer that in a slides, in the last slides of the references. I have mentioned my blog link for this kind of demos. Okay, and the amplify details also.
Okay. Okay.
You can
So
share with the
thanks.
user. Yeah, this one.
Yeah. Sure. So I have pasted it in the comments. Maybe once after the session, like I'll also mention it in the description of this video. It will be useful
Sure.
for the users. And guys, like if you have any doubts, you can reach out to him in his Twitter handle. So this is
Yes.
Twitter handle Aviboy 2006. You can reach out to him, and you can also ask him why he has kept 2006 in his handle. Like, I'm not sure about it.
Okay. Uh, so there is a story behind it actually. When I started using the internet, right, there was the only fad of the Reddit mail one. So that
Okay.
time, even Avi Boy was like, I was just in 11th standard, not even aware of how to set the environment. Okay, I'm a boy, Avi boy, and 2006 and 2006 only I did it, because I have completed
Oh,
my 12th on a 2006, right? That's why I put it
yeah.
at 2006. So that then
Okay.
it
Okay.
started going on that saying. I even famous in my network also Avi Boy only, so that I kept continuing the same. Even GitHub also same Avi Boy 2006, and my
Okay.
this also Avi Boy 2006, like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that information, Agnes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have any doubts, like you can reach out to him in his Twitter handle. And thanks, Avinash. So thanks for your talk.
Yeah, thanks, Suhas, and thanks even Sundaram bhai, so to give us opportunity for talk to for the ng-Keralam. I'll
Yeah.
be excited to do more session with community.
Sure, sure,
Yeah.
Avinash. Like, thanks for your time.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, so I think that was a very quick session. I think we still have like 20 minutes before we start our next session. So let me share some like I have an update. Like I thought maybe share it at the end, or like we have some more time. Like I'll share it now. Like most of you are like maybe aware of like there's an huge Angular conference going on, which is called as ng-Conf. Maybe if I let me just put it here and. So this conf like it happens every year. Like we'll get some important updates, and it has a good number of sessions with lot of good speakers. And recently they started I think the 23rd and 24th of April. So only the keynote is available in their channel because it's a kind of a paid conference. I think it's around $300 I guess for a ticket. Like if you want to watch the keynote, you can just go to this ng-Conf channel, and you can just watch out for Thursday and Friday keynote. Thursday keynote, it's all about Angular updates of version 12, and there are a lot of interesting updates. And one of the interesting update is in version 12 they're going to deprecate view engine, and they are fully moving into Ivy. And in v13 it's going to be fully Ivy. So that was one of the interesting update. And there are a lot of updates. Like if you are interested, you can just go and watch this keynotes. And Friday I think it's full of RxJS, etc. Both these keynotes were very much useful. You'll find some interesting updates. And yeah, and this channel, like it also have some interesting videos about some interesting topics in Angular about previous conferences. Like if you are available, you can just go and watch these videos, which I think it will be very helpful for you. Okay, so I think that was the information I thought to share with you guys. And next up we have William, and he'll be talking about animate your Angular applications. So over to you, William.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah,
Please share my screen.
sure. Yeah, got it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm William, and I'm a front-end developer working primarily with Angular to build both web and mobile apps. I'll be talking to you about how you can animate your Angular applications, um, and we get to it. Okay. So I often get asked this question a lot. So with so many animation techniques and libraries out there, it's difficult to find which ones would work well with Angular, and even if it does, which ones to use when. So my goal of this talk is to give you a high-level overview of the common and also some niche animations options that you can start using in your project, along with their specific use cases. So um, available options. So this is not an exhaustive list of what we have available to us, but this is just a list I compiled together that has the options that are more commonly used in Angular projects. So we'll start from the basic ones and then move on to the more advanced ones. And this is an animation talk, so just a heads up, I have some demos on each slide that play on a loop. So just to showcase the various animations. So just a heads up that you'll have a lot of moving parts throughout the presentation. Okay, let's start with CSS animations. So CSS animations, this is really common, and this is not specific to Angular. So you can use this with just a regular HTML, JavaScript project, any other frameworks. So why is this very popular? So this is firstly performant, and then it's also very powerful because it's continuously evolving, and you have a lot of transformations and all kinds of animations that are supported out of the box. And also what this does, with CSS animations too, you're given the ability to add third-party animation libraries that are pure CSS. So let's start with a really simple one. So hover animations. This is a pretty common use case where you hover over something and that element gets animated to show that it's either clickable or interactable in some way or form. So you can use a very simple animation for this. Is you can use transition, CSS transition, as you see on the last line of the code snippet. And you can just add it using the pseudocode :hover. So it's just a few lines, and then you get the result you see on the right side. So you can get more complex with the same kind of pseudo class with like the hover pseudo class. But if you want to add more complexity to your animation, instead of using transforms, you can actually use keyframes as well. So you could, like this one, you can add a bounce when you hover over it, and then you can actually specify each keyframe. So like here you have like the 0, 100%. That's the keyframes for each. So at 0%, you have translate Y at 0, and at 40%, it goes to -15 pixels, and so on. So you can get pretty fancy and complex just using CSS animations. Another thing that CSS animations is good at is infinite animations. So you just add the class that contains the animation, and this you can use keyframes for this as well, and then it will just play forever or until you remove that class. And then another technique that's usually used when using CSS animation is you trigger an animation by adding a class and then stop it by removing. So like here, you see I have card pulse that's binded to start pulsing. So start pulsing is a Boolean that's binded using Angular bindings. And then when start pulsing is true, it adds the card pulse class, which in turn starts the animation. And then when it's false, it removes it, which then stops the animation. So this is just how adding and removing CSS classes can add animation and tying it together using Angular binding. So Angular already makes it a little easier to add CSS animations just through their bindings, and we haven't even gotten into Angular animations yet. So, and also what this opens up the possibility of is using third-party CSS animations, which uses the same concept of adding and removing classes. So Animate CSS does exactly this. So you see we need to add the animated class to tell animated CSS that this div is going to be animated. And then fast is just a config, so you can add slow, fast, just to tell Animate CSS the speed of your animation. And then bouncing up and bounce out down are predefined classes from animate.css that you bind to a variable in Angular. And with this, then you get all the animations that Animate CSS offers, and then you can just use it with Angular binding, and you have a full library of animations at your disposal. Another one that you can use is Tailwind CSS. So this works the exact same way. I know Tailwind is a lot more commonly used for styling and layouts, but it also has a few handy animations. that you just add a class, like on the first span you see animate ping, and that's what the result of that is actually the button on the right with the pulsing dot on the right top corner. So all that is just through adding a single class to your HTML element. So I can't do a talk about animating your Angular apps without actually discussing Angular animations. So why Angular animations? So Angular animations is very performant because it uses web animation APIs and falls back to CSS animations. So you can be sure that all these animations that you write using Angular animations are going to be performant. And also, it comes with out-of-the-box support for the following things: enter, leave, state change, timing, sequences, and also animating multiple elements. I think this alone already covers a lot of the use cases that we want to use, that we want to animate in our applications. I'll go through some of these in more detail, but this is just a very high-level overview of what Angular animations provide. So how to use this? So, firstly, to use this Angular animations, you need to import the browser animations module to your app module, and then add it to your imports array. And then now you have all the Angular animations API to use throughout your application. Okay, before we actually show each of the use cases, let's go over some of the basic anatomy, because I think this is pretty specific to Angular, and it will be easier to actually see the use case after actually getting a rough overview of what each part of it is. So Angular animations is made up of this 5 main elements. You have the trigger, and I think this might make more sense as I show you the example. But so the trigger is the animation name you give it. This will be what is going to be used to add the animation to your HTML. State is the name you give the element at a particular state. So like, say you have like a default state or an active state, and then you can specify the styles within that state. So when say a button is at a default state, so you can specify the styles that it needs to be applied when it's default, and then it's different set of styles when it's active. So styles, I just went over styles, and then transition is the animation that you want to apply when the element transitions between the different states. And then animate is the actual animation code inside the transition. Okay, so one of the most basic ones is state change. So you have, if you see on the code snippet on the right side, on the top right, you have a state called default and then disabled. And then for each state, you have the style function. So at default, you have opacity of 1, and then disabled, you have an opacity of 0.5, just to create a dimming effect. And then if you see in the transition, you can it accepts an array which tells Angular what to animate when it goes between the different states. And then if you look at the bottom right code snippet, that's essentially how you would add this animation to your HTML tag. So you add the trigger prefix with an @ symbol, and then you just pass in the state. So in this case, I have this enabled as a boolean that you can toggle between. And then depending on if it's true or false, it'll set it to default or disabled. And then you get this nice change of opacity, animated change of opacity you see on the left. Enter and leave is another common thing. So it's very common in Angular that you conditionally display an element using ng-ifs. So you can easily animate that ngIf using an enter and leave transition. If you see on the top right, enter and leave are special transitions that Angular offers that applies the animation and style automatically when the transition is enter. Angular automatically adds this style and animation as the element is added to the DOM. And then on leave, it's the exact same concept, but when the element is removed from the DOM. So you don't have to deal with cleaning up your animations and all that. Angular does that all for you. And it's just a matter of adding that animation trigger to your element that has the ngIf. So like in this case, you see on the bottom code snippet, you have ngIf is displayed. And then all you need to be able to animate that element is just by adding fade, slide in, out animation trigger to it. So you can get more complex with this. You can also animate the children of the entering and exiting element. So you see the snippet on the top right, you have this displayed at the parent level, and then you want to animate the children of it. So what you do here is instead of directly applying the animation to your parent, you use a query and then animate child. So what this does is tell Angular to look for the children that has the animation trigger and then animate it when the parent is entering or leaving. This is particularly useful for elements that are like lists and anything that has repeated. So anything that's like ng4, this is particularly useful for that. So like you have ul, li tags. You can easily animate all its children this way. Okay, another feature of Angular animations is sequencing. So you can use keyframes the same way you would in CSS, just with a slightly different syntax to control your animations. So here the offset goes from 0 to 1, and this is the same concept of keyframes in CSS where it goes from 0% to 100%. And you can add as many styles between that depending on the complexity of your animations. Okay, so this is one, stagger is one of the thing that I find particularly useful. So stagger is when you add a delay between the execution of your animation. So if you see the demo on the left, there's a slight delay between when the animation starts between each element. So how this works is if you see on the code snippet, when you query enter, it looks for all the elements that is entering the DOM. And then if you see stagger 100 milliseconds, that's actually telling Angular to add a delay of 100 milliseconds between each execution of the animation. So you have this nice staggering effect just by passing in an additional parameter to your animation code. And you can also do the opposite of adding a delay. So you can add a negative delay, like on the leave animation, so it goes in reverse order. Okay, so when you add animations, oftentimes you'll also need a way to disable them for certain scenarios. I'll go over some of those scenarios and the various ways that you can handle those. So first, disabled. This is a special directive that Angular provides for animations. So what this does is it disables all its children. So when you add this to your top level component at your app component HTML, this will essentially disable everything that falls under that. One thing that it won't affect are elements that are added to the DOM directly. So these are like modals and anything that basically added through a component factory and renderer. Another option is using the no operation animations module. This is more commonly used for testing. So when you write your test and run your test, you usually don't really care about your animations. But having animation code in there slows down your test, which you don't really need that slowdown. So you could, instead of passing in the browser's animation module when you're testing, you could pass in the no operation animations module. So what this does is it skips your entire animation code at the time of the animation execution, so you don't have to actually wait for the animation to finish when you're testing. This is something new that came out with Angular 12. It lets you pass in a condition at runtime to disable animations. So what you could do here is, if the user has a prefers reduced motion setting on their browser, you could actually disable the animations throughout your application. This is specific to Angular animations, so this won't affect CSS animations or other ways you're applying animations. But all Angular animations could be disabled by passing in just a certain conditions that you want to trigger enabling and disabling of your animations. Okay, so another common question about Angular animations I get is Angular animations only limited to web? And the short answer is no. So you could use it in an Ionic app to build hybrid mobile apps the same way you would in an Angular web app, which is pretty cool. So this means you could reuse your web Angular animation code in an Ionic app, and you get the same animations in mobile. Another one is NativeScript. You could also use Angular animations in a NativeScript app. The only difference being, instead of importing the browser's animations module, you would import the NativeScript animations module. And the rest of the APIs are exactly the same. So this is a demo I'm working on for a YouTube series I'm doing. I'll leave a link to it if you're interested in seeing how I did this. But all the animations you see on the demo on the right here is exclusively done using Angular animations. So you can see how powerful just using Angular animations is. So let's break this down a little further. So as you see, when the app first loads and when it's navigating between pages, you have this staggering effect where the elements are fading in and sliding up from the bottom. This is done using Angular animations stagger, which I talked about earlier. And then the menu, when you tap on the hamburger menu and the whole content slides to the right. So this is all done just using a state change. So you have the menu is open and menu is closed, and as you toggle between those, you could add that animation to scale it down and then transform it and translate it to the right. And then lastly is the bottom sheet. So the bottom sheet is using an ng-if and using Angular animations enter and exit, enter and leave transitions. So I just specified that I wanted to translate from the bottom up when it's entering, and then the opposite direction when it's leaving. So you can see that all this and more could be done just using Angular animations. I'll make sure to leave a link to the GitHub repo so you could see exactly how this was made. So what does this all mean, and why should I care, or how does this impact my Angular applications? So what this means is, firstly, if you find a code snippet online for an Angular web project, it's almost 100% that you could use the same snippet in an Ionic or a NativeScript project, both like in an Angular NativeScript or Angular Ionic project. And then another benefit of this is if you're using a shared code base such as NX, you could share your animation code between your web and mobile apps. So you can see in the picture on the right, for those who are aren't familiar with NX, NX is a code sharing workspace setup where you could share code between different apps, where you have sections, folders in the apps, folders in the workspace that represents different things. So with animations being able to be shared, you could have this exact same animation run on both web and mobile and have a consistent experience throughout different platforms if you do have multiple apps. And you also get to only just write it once and run it in multiple places. Okay, so let's move on to another option, web animation APIs. So like the previous sections, why web animation APIs? So these has a few advantages just because it's using JavaScript. It's still performant, and also it gives you more control over a lot of things, like the sequencing and also animation play states. So the level of control alone is, I think, what makes this very powerful. This is particularly useful for animations that are based on some dynamic values, such as your cursor's position or an element's current position that you wouldn't know prior to runtime. So sequence effects. So this is so you could chain animations, not necessarily on the same element, but you could chain different elements animation using regular promises. I think this is a pretty neat technique. So say you have 5 different elements and you want to chain them. Like you want to play the animation first element, and then once that's done, you want to start playing the second one. You can do this easily using web animation APIs. So if you see on the left, you notice the boxes gets animated one at a time. And it's waiting. The next one is always waiting until the previous one is done before starting. So you also get more control on animation play states, like I mentioned previously. So instead of just having a start and stop, you could also pause your animation and also reverse them, which I think is pretty cool. So you can write an animation just once, and then you could do a lot of things to it. Okay, so we're getting a little more complex now. So third-party libraries. Why third-party libraries? For more complex use cases that aren't supported natively, so there are a lot of animations that just aren't supported natively. So these are some good reason to use a third-party library that does support those. And I'll go in more detail on what those might be. And also, you don't have to write your own animation code if it's already written out there somewhere. So Greenstock. Greenstock is a pretty popular animation library in general. I'm going to skip the whole setup and go directly how it's used in an Angular app, because there are some steps required to get it to work in Angular. And I'll just leave a link to an excellent blog post that covers this integration for any of you who are interested. So you can use a timeline. So one of the features that Greenstock is popularly known for is their timeline. So this is how you would use it in an Angular application. So the only difference here between how you would use it in Angular versus using it in a regular project or a different framework is how you get access to the element. So if you see this .native element in the code snippet, this .element is just the HTML element that Angular accesses using a viewChild decorator. And then everything else is exactly the same as you would use Greenstock in a regular project. Lottie is another pretty popular one. This is an animation library that's created by Airbnb. This renders animations that are created in Adobe's After Effects. So these animations, gets exported as a JSON file. So you can treat it somewhat similar to how you would treat an SVG. So you drop it inside an assets folder. And then, so Angular has this library called ngx-Lottie that you could use. And then instead of passing in like an image or anything, you just pass in the JSON file. And then you get all these fancy animations you see on the left without having to code the animations yourself. And this is usually also used for mobile apps. So you would see a lot of plugins for Lottie for like React Native, Ionic, NativeScript. It's pretty common, at least in the hybrid mobile space as well. So if you have heard of Framer Motion for React, Pop Motion is what powers Framer Motion. So we don't currently have an Angular wrapper for it, but we could still use Pop Motion directly in our Angular animations to create spring animations. So there are a few amazing articles out there. I'll leave all those links. And this is essentially how you would use it in Angular applications. So it's pretty straightforward, even though it doesn't have an Angular specific wrapper around it. And you get to basically create animations similar to how you would in React using Framer Motion. So you get all those powerful spring animations for you. And this uses the view child. What's Angular specific about this is the view child and the renderer. So on update, you pass in the renderer set style and then the elements, native element, and then you get to you get to basically apply any kind of animation. You get to apply any kind of animation to any element on your template. So a quick recap of everything that I covered. So we have CSS animations and its various use cases, and then also Angular animations, its core features, and also its integrations, how you could use it in the various different other Angular frameworks. And you also get web, and we also talked about web animation APIs and how you could use that for more complex use cases. And then lastly, we did talk about the third-party animation libraries for more complex animation code. I think that takes us to the end of the presentation.
Okay, so I think till now there are no questions, William. Okay, so like guys, if you have any doubts regarding this session, you can reach out to him on his Twitter handle. Like this is his Twitter handle, William Juan 2027. If you have any questions or if you like after the session, we'll, as William mentioned, we'll post all the blog links in the description of this video. You can take a look at it and you can try it out. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to him in his Twitter handle.
Yep. Yeah.
And yeah. And thanks William, and thanks for your time, and thank you for spending your time with our community.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Okay, so I think that was very two quick sessions. So I think we came to the end of the day. Like we had two interesting sessions. The first session, to give a recap, first session was by Avinash. Like we saw how to host a static website using AWS Amplify. I think that was very very useful. Like if you have a static web page in your GitHub, you can just select and click deploy, and it will take only 5 to 10 minutes of it. So that was very interesting one. And second one, we had animations, like William briefly explained from like what are the animations from CSS and how you can make use of Angular animations, and how what are these third party libraries we can make use of it. I think These animations will be very much helpful in mobile. Like if you are developing a mobile application using Ionic or native script, these animations will be very much helpful for you. So I thank, thanks to William and Avinash for their time, um, for talking us for our community. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a meetup group for our community, which is called as Talkify community. So the link is meetup.com/Talkify community. You can just go to this link. So let me just add the link in the banner, like it will be useful for you. So this is the one, meetup.com/Talkify community. You can just go to this link, and there'll be a join button here, and if you click join, it'll be notified of our future events. Like as I said earlier, we do every month last Saturday, and we also do events related to Microsoft technologies. We'll do that every month second Saturday. So if you are interested to know about Microsoft technologies, you can also join this group. And yeah, so once you join, you'll be notified of our, let's say if we create a event or edit a event, like you'll be notified. You'll be notified, and I'm sure like you'll not be spammed by our emails. Like there'll be only minimum emails you'll get. And yeah, so I think once again, thanks everyone for joining. So thanks for your time, and I appreciate your interest. Like it's Saturday evening, so instead of going outside, you chose to learn something new. I appreciate it, and keep supporting our community, and stay safe, guys. And the situation is not good right now, and so stay safe, and be home and don't go anywhere. Like stay safe with your family, and spend some time together. And thanks everyone. Thanks for joining, and keep supporting our community. Thank you.